I don't know where my copy of that book went. I need a bookshelf for all my 2 books. It's going to be a very small shelf.
Hookers and Blow takes up most of the shelf.
It would be like, no, it would be like 4 foot long of all the Tow Canada magazines that I have, followed by Hookers and Blow, Save Christmas, Opening the Door to the Truth, and The Life in the Fast Lane. That's like my 3 books.
Got me beat. I've got A Day in the Life on Just a Few Acres Farm, which is
is that about how to start your cult?
Well, it actually kind of sort of is. It's got a lot of philosophy in it and like good ways of living your life and how to like run a small farm.
Yeah, and how to like convince people that you're like the Lord and that you should like breed with their wives. Like, is that part of it or?
Anywho, welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life podcast.
I am your host, TowManG, and as usual, I am joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. PlainGuy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
Oh, I figured we had enough of a rant before this show that could probably be put into its own ramble, so we might as well just get the show on the road.
No, 100%. The ramblings of 2 sociopaths is what we can call that. It'll be our next podcast right after 2 Fat Guys in Food. It'll fall.
Keep an eye out in 2025 for that show to start.
Big things coming to PlainGuy Productions and the Towing Life podcast. So, as G said, welcome to another episode of the Towing Life podcast. Episode 129. As time just continues to absolutely fly by. It is amazing. I know we actually didn't get to it. Did we get to it last week where we wanted to say our audio download listener number? Did we actually get to that?
Yeah, we touched on it.
We did talk on it? Okay, it was still in the note, and I wasn't sure if we had gotten to it or not, so I will save everybody. That number is now at 40,004, so we appreciate you all listening over the last week.
Shout out to you 4 fine listeners.
Yeah, so now we've got another great show on tap this week. We're going to talk some towing. You know, it is the Towing Life podcast, and I know we tend to get on rants on our own personal lives and everything else. We'll try and spare you all from that this time around. It is a good time before we get
honest. That's why they tune in.
That's 100%. Should I give an update? Should I give that update? I don't know if my wife can hear me. I don't want to give the update if my wife can hear me because my wife's going to get sad. But before we do get to the show, it is a good time to mention.
I can give the update.
It's not a bad idea. We appreciate all your listener questions, comments, concerns, everything you guys have brought into the show over these 129 episodes, and we continue to accept more. So if you want to get a hold of us, it's simple. Head over to www.towinglife.ca, email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com, or visit us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. If you're over on the YouTube side, you can always comment down below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe while you are there. While you're on the towinglife.ca website, you'll find there's merch. There's everything else going on there. We try and kind of keep it updated as regularly as need be. So be sure to check that out. Help support the show. Share it over on social media and everything else. It's a free way to help continue to grow. Our Facebook page continues to grow. Like every week, it's this person, and 20 others liked your page. So the Facebook page continues to grow. We really do appreciate it. And it's a free way to support.
We could find a way to monetize Facebook.
You used to be able to. We have the option now.
Don't we have a contest going on to be a co-host on the show?
Oh yeah, no, that contest is going really well. Nobody wants to be a co-host.
No one wants our job. I see.
No, absolutely nobody. You know what? It probably would help if I would. I got some stuff that I clearly have to do. The co-host contest is still open on the website. Mm-hmm. So Head over to towinglife.ca/co-host, COHOST, to submit for your chance to be a co-host on an episode of the Towing Life podcast with your co-host of choice, whether myself or Mr. TowManG.
Please pick PlainGuy.
Please,
Give me a break.
please pick PlainGuy too.
Who's PlainGuy 2?
Well, I mean, I don't listen to the episode anyway, so I definitely won't even know what's going on if I'm not in it. So it's kind of it might be a win-win.
No, but unfortunately, the ramblings that PlainGuy went on last week about spending $400+ on this cat.
It was a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, the cat is no longer with us or with them. It's a very sad moment. There's lots of tears. Mrs. PlainGuy made a very wonderful post on Facebook along with 50 pictures of her cat.
True story.
I might be exaggerating. I think it was like 46 or 47. It's she's had the cat for a long time, like many years.
She hasn't.
No?
It was like 6 years old.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have kind of deemed I'm trying to keep my voice down to make sure she can't hear me through this door because she will come in here screaming at me or crying because it has been nonstop.
If PlainGuy gets a slipper in the back of the head, you will know why.
Yeah, 100%. So no, it was about 6 years old. So it wasn't an old cat. I have another one that's like 12 or something, and it's still spry as a chick. But I'm pretty sure it is determining this. So this was her first pet, right? So the one cat I had before we got into the relationship, the dog we got after this other cat, this was her first cat of her own as her adult life. It's also the first animal she's lost as an adult.
Yeah.
And my wife doesn't handle it very well. As we went over in our pre-show, I'm a very empathetic person. However, my patience ran very short with the amount of sadness that came from this whole thing. I, for that reason alone, do not want to get more pets ever in the future.
Oh,
because you've got to be able to handle this as part of the cycle of life.
that's one thing. Like I saw a post on Facebook because that's where you find everything nowadays. It's you get a pet or specifically a dog in your 20s to late 20s, and you go through the first couple of years, and then you realize that, oh, I got this dog in my 20s to make me really happy, and then it's going to devastate me sometime in my 30s when it dies.
Yeah,
and
pretty
that's
much.
Just something that you sign up for when you get an animal, unfortunately.
But it doesn't have to, like, to me, it's not a devastating thing. Now, I mean, let's have this conversation when something eventually happens to my dog, because again, it's the cycle of life. But it's just, I don't know, to me, I'm in this industry, you become very numb to death, period. Yeah. Right? I don't cry and get upset when I'm doing a fatality of possibly even a child involved. Why am I going to break for an animal? You know? Well,
the animal you have a connection to, you've raised it, you trained it, you've taken care of it for
it's a cat.
10 years or so. Yeah, well, I'm saying more so like your dog Sasha, right?
Yeah.
You've done a lot more things with the dog. You've been able to form new memories with the dog, going out and about places, going on hikes, walks, going on trips, that kind of thing. It becomes more of a member of your family. With my cat, it's an indoor-outdoor cat. Yeah. So if it gets eaten by coyotes, yeah, it's going to suck, and I'm going to miss the cat, but that's just, it's a cat, I guess.
So the only surprise thing that came from this, being that we are in Canada, the land of the tundra and igloos for our American listeners, is that there was no frost in the ground. So I went out and buried said cat, actually at our shop.
In the backyard of your rental property?
No, at our shop. Even better.
Oh, okay.
At our shop. And I was surprised to only find about an inch and a half of frost.
Yep.
Which is good because my excavator wasn't in the yard. So I had to dig by hand. And I'm going to tell you, if there was if there was more than 2 inches of frost or 3 inches of frost that I couldn't get through,
It would have gone in the dumpster.
100%, I was going to disturb some dirt and put it in the dumpster and let my wife know, who also works there, that this is
Not
the
to
spot
look in the dumpster.
no, that this is the spot where it's buried.
Oh,
But
okay.
luckily, and she actually asked me, because I told her that. And I said, if the frost was too thick, and this is what I was going to do. And she's like, so is it actually in there? I'm like, no, 100% it actually is. I couldn't live with the guilt of lying to you about it, because I know how devastated you are. So yes, it's buried peacefully in a back corner somewhere. And this weekend we spent time making a cross to put up with that. I will have you aware, it is not my idea. I would have, yeah, it would have gone in the dumpster. So surprisingly,
I
though,
throw chickens out in my manure pile whenever they die,
yeah,
or like
same
the
idea.
peacock, and then I get the tractor and I fluff up the manure pile and cover them with shit so the coyotes don't come around and eat
Well,
their
that's my
body.
thing. I had to dig it deep enough to make sure, yeah, the coyotes don't come around and dig it up. And
Yeah, be too shallow of a grave.
yeah. So I had to dig by hand. I did some manual labor.
Wow, that's the first for
Yeah,
you.
and I needed a big enough hole for this thing. It was it's not a small cat. So yeah, anyways, on to towing. What's new and
I've got a
exciting in
cat
the
story I
towing
might
world?
be able to tell you down the road too. I'm not sure if I can air it on the show because it's not a great cat story, but yeah.
Oof. We'll save it for another episode. We'll save it for our
Yeah.
live. Next time we do a live, whenever that may be, and we are not hinting at it. We have not decided. We have not any of that. But might as well still tell a terrible cat story with 75, 80 people watching live. I think that's the best time
Yeah,
to tell
why
those
not?
stories.
Of course. No editing, no nothing. Can't cut nothing out in case it gets a little dark.
So why don't we? I want to go over. So I seen a post, and I want to give credit where credit is due. On Facebook, we do find a lot of stuff that we talk about
We're
through
good
our
at
own
recycling here at the Towing Life podcast.
but through our own personal experiences, right? Because towing is constantly evolving, changing, and you're always learning new things. And through those on social media, which if you see nowadays on social media, as we've talked about before, towing is about somebody coming up with an idea and 50% of the people bashing them, saying it's stupid, and the other 50% going, hey, that's a great idea and keep up the good work. This is a trick that I have used before in my life, and not just for this scenario, but for others. And it is skates. If you do not have skates on your tow truck, right, you are probably one of the 1,000 people a week that post on towing groups asking, how do you get a vehicle off your bed? What kind of soap do you use? What kind of spray lube do you use? Do you charge for it? So on, so forth, and whatnot. We've all seen those posts all over social media. Skates are your best friends. Now, providing that you don't have an operator like I used to have that would leave skates under every car in my impound. Every morning, I do a tour around our inbound, right? Almost every morning. If it's not every morning, it's every second morning. And I just happen to look and see where spots are filling up, where they're, you know what I mean, running out of space, where we might have to relocate things, maybe see some new wrecks that came in, and that kind of stuff. And we'd always spot some green skates sitting under a tire of a vehicle. And 9 times out of 10, if I would go check the computer, it would be that same driver would unload the skates and leave them on the car. So I'm a big fan of there's multiple different options of skates. You have the traditional, I'd like to call them traditional Wreckmaster green skates, right?
I
They
think
are
we talked
Wreckmaster
about
brand.
skates like a couple of episodes ago.
What's that?
I think we talked about skates a couple of episodes
Well, we talked about
ago.
like ball joint skates and that. I remember getting into that side of things, right? There was the ball joint skates and whatnot. But then they also have the brown, I don't know, recycled cardboard ones. And they got a couple different versions of the skates that are out there. So I'm a big fan of those Wreckmaster ones. You can really hit them hard with a hammer. They don't shatter. They're pretty good. But you use them to get your vehicles off decks. I've used them for a lot of weird things. But this gentleman showed me something that I've used before, and it just, I completely forgot about it. Have you ever had a truck with a big drop down hitch? And 9 times out of 10, The damn thing is seized into them, right? Absolutely just buckled into the seized in with rust and everything else, especially out up in our area. So you can't take them out. And when you go to load it, it's a road digger, it's a driveway digger, it's a, it's a pain in the ass is what it is. Well, this guy here uses his, and we'll pull it up on the screen, to offload a truck. And how he does it, I'm not seeing anything on my screen. How he does it is he places the skate underneath the hitch as he offloads the truck. I hope it's better quality on your screen because it's absolutely terrible on mine.
Yeah, it looks fine on mine.
Okay. So he uses it to offload the truck. Now, what's great about this trick that this guy is doing is that it's I can't even pause the thing. Offloading the vehicle without the skate, that thing is going to just dig into the roadway or driveway or whatever gravel it is that you're offloading it on, and would just absolutely dead stop it. It wouldn't want to come off your truck. Right? That is one of the first things that you talked about. Never mind saving the asphalt. It would just dead stop and make it impossible to offload this thing. These are the kinds of things that you see in the industry that I like, because it's guys using a tool maybe not for its original purpose. Right? Like a skate was not, I'm pretty sure the guy that made the skate did not go to use it for a hitch, right? The idea was to pound it under the tires and slide vehicles off and on. Great idea. I love this kind of stuff for our new rookies that are out there. If you ever have a vehicle, I've used it for like those transport slots on Hyundais that stick down too low on a lowered car and they're going to hit the bed. Right? I've stuck skates under there. You can use skates on so many different things. And if you take care of them, they're long lasting. You'll have them forever. And guess what? Like I've been an advocate for all these years, bill for the damn thing. Use it. We have a charge on our invoices for specialty equipment, including skates, ramps, etc. And we charge a flat rate for it every time, about $10. $10 to say, you know what? Is $10 worth is $10 worth that skate? Not tearing up your driveway? Absolutely. Now we know some of those roadsides won't want to pay for it, whatever, that's fine. Is $10 worth scraping up a guy's driveway? Like is absorbing that cost for the one time that you use it, you're not going to get paid, or maybe the 10 times in its life, like that thing will last for 150, 200 calls that you use it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like these are not like one-time use throwaway items.
No.
Right?
No,
So
even if you can only justify that charge 10 times out of its life, it's still pretty much paying for itself.
Yep. Oh, for one?
At $10
yeah, for one
a pop.
individual? Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I know we've had some listeners comment, whether it be through email or on the YouTube, about, like some little tricks they picked up. So hopefully for those new operators, it is a trick for you. If you're one of the veterans that's been at it for a while, maybe you didn't know that. Great. If you did, awesome. Teach it to your new guys. It is such a good trick. And it's something that a new operator 9 times out of 10 won't think of right away on their own. Right? Green operators are very much in a box. They only know what you've shown them. Right? How many times have you had that where you go to a guy to help him on a call? And it's the simplest. Like if you would just think outside of your standard hook and pull and tie down, you'd be able to figure this out. But they're just so focused on getting the basics down, which is a good thing. I want them, very well versed in their day to day. But little tricks like that, you teach them, hey, throw a skate under that. Right? It's a perfect training scenario to do out in the yard that is going to go a long way when a customer shows up and they start loading their truck and they go, hold on a second. They put the skate behind it and they pull it up. A customer who doesn't know the ins and out will now gain a respect for that operator and put trust and faith in that operator, which is going to allow the operator to do his job more efficiently and get you better reviews down the road as a company.
I don't even think it's just new operators. Like if you get onto a scene and let's say it's a fairly low BMW car and the tires come off on the front driver's side, let's say, and you're in a wheel lift. So now you're thinking, okay, how am I going to get this on? And you might just bypass the actual, there's one stud left on this wheel. If I can put that wheel back onto the one stud and rob a lug nut off of one of the other tires and then
Mhm.
strap that tire back to the car, I can then wheel lift the car without having to do anything too out of the ordinary.
Mhm.
Right? You get to these weird calls and you start thinking, okay, well, this isn't the normal way. This isn't a normal hook and book. What do
Yep.
I got to do? You start problem solving, but you're problem solving for a problem that really isn't there if you just take a step back. And sometimes all it needs is someone else to come in with a fresh set of eyes and say,
Mhm.
hey, dummy, do it this way. It's a lot easier.
Mhm. Absolutely. I recently just had a story with that with one of my operators where he was doing a winch out for a guy with a cube truck that decides this time of year, I know we don't have snow, and as I said, frost isn't very heavy in the ground, decides to drive around back of a hotel to drop off a tankless water, a hot water thing. Obviously buries it.
Smart.
And my operator, I got to move this car and I got to move this car because I got to be dead straight to it, right? Because I'm pulling way out. Like I'm pulling a couple 100 feet out. And I'm like, first of all, the little bit that you're off, if you're slightly outside of your bed rail for 150 feet, isn't going to hurt you much. Keep an eye on your line. Pay attention. You'll be fine. Secondly, you see that tree right there? Yeah. Well, if you ran some soft rigging around it and put a snatch block, that tree is the off side of that tree is dead center of your bed, and then run to that casualty. You are going to keep the straight line off your truck. Like these are the things, again, you can get easily caught up in just a straight line thinking. Okay, I'm going to winch that out. I'm going to put my bed out, which normally we don't recommend, but when you're pulling straight back and you're trying to get that extra 20 feet off something that's got minimal resistance, right, is rolling in soft grass. You're more than able to do that. I got to be dead straight. Okay, but when you're off a foot over 150 feet, it's not going to kill you, right? Yep. Again, pay attention to your wire rope. Everything else, it's those kind of things where you can it's easy for newer operators to get landlocked on this idea that they have. And you're right, not take a step back, not look at it, and not come up with a second plan, right? How many times do you see guys do that? They get into a winch out idea. And it's like, okay. And then they'll stick with that. They'll ride that thing to the ground. Yep. It ain't working, but they'll ride it to the ground because they're not thinking outside the box at what another approach they might have as they got locked on that idea and they're going with it.
Right? The front tires on my truck are 6 feet off the ground right now, but the casualties moved an inch, so it's got to move more.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of taking a second, stepping back and going, I wonder if I, boomed up, boomed down, whatever it is that you can change in that situation that would make this, go a lot better. I just ran into that scenario. We almost had to go swimming. This would have been the latest into winter I've been swimming. We had a Honda CRV lose control and go into the river. Luckily, where he crashed was right up against the shore that we could step on some wet rocks and hook it up. So ideally, we were concerned it had to come up the embankment. There was rocks. I thought this might be one of those times I gotta give in and call a rotator just to make life easy. Right, rather than risking ripping out a fuel tank or something like that on these rocks. I mean, this is there's some environmental issues. And I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm gonna turn. I can't. There's power lines in the way, so rotator's off the table. Okay, how do we get it out without one? I call a wrecker. We get the wrecker there. I want to spin this thing 90 degrees and bring it up. There's a perfect shot right up that I can bring it up. All right, go in it. See if we can turn the wheels. Steering's locked. Guy took the keys with him. They always do. And it's stuck in park. Try to winch. No luck. It wants to go into that rock embankment. Well, take a step back. Look at the situation. The wheels are turned in such a way that if we were to winch this backwards, it's actually going to turn and do kind of a 180 as it comes out and up at this other hole in the embankment. Right? Taking that step out. Don't get caught up on your first idea. Right? Share pictures with people, right? Pictures will absolutely go a long way. Sometimes you got to reach out to a buddy. Hey, what would you do here? What would you do to make this better, right? We always tell our guys to make sure you take pictures on scene. Pictures are super important, not only for insurance billing purposes, but for training purposes later on down the road. Right?
Before we get into the next topic about pictures, I just want to cut you off there because we've had a comment left on our last video on the YouTube kind of about the same thing that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And this was regarding the roadsides.
Yep.
and bad information. So this is Fisher B. Customer states he left his car at some falls in British Columbia because
Okay.
he had a flat front top passenger tire. Customer states keys are with him in Alberta, so
Ooh.
multiple provinces away.
Yep.
Please tow to yard in Golden. Uh, Park is scheduled for seasonal closure tomorrow morning. It's an urgent call. Arrived on the scene to find the customer had wiped out on a curve, driven up the rock face, high centered on a boulder, and then abandoned it there. He was right though. The front passenger side tire was flat as it was jammed up under the engine. Love 3-letter roadside. They never stop entertaining.
That's your flat tire, no spare, and it's rolled over in a
Yep.
ditch, right? Like that is the
Yep.
BC version of the flat tire, no spare. Now, I do have a questioner for that listener. Obviously, you watch over on the YouTube side. Thanks for the comment. That's awesome.
Yeah.
A, pictures. I want to see this because I
Mhm.
know you have them. And B,
Mhm.
did you end up doing it for the roadside? Because I mean, obviously the roadside approved that the member wasn't present, which most of them, well, depending on the roadside, some do, some require the member
Well, it
present.
sounds like the roadside even knew the keys were three provinces away, or 2 provinces away.
I had that in the wintertime. I had a car in the ditch. They said flat tire, no spare, or stalled while driving. I can't remember. One of them. No,
Mhm.
yeah, it was flat tire, no spare, and it was facing the wrong way in the ditch on the 401. And it was a roadside call, and it was like a Mercedes or a BMW with nothing, very little to hook onto, with no keys,
Yep.
locked up, and they took the keys back to Toronto. And I told the
Nice.
I told the roadside, I said, no, the liability and risk of damage
Mhm.
is like, this is, I could get this car out, don't get me wrong. And if,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing it for your, zero
Subpar rate.
liability rate, your subpar
Yeah.
rate. It's not happening, right? Get me the
Mhm.
keys or call another contractor that's dumb enough to do it because it's
Mhm.
just not worth it, right? We've talked about that. It's just not worth it. So,
And like taking pictures
mhm,
of things like that only goes so far, especially if the customer isn't there,
mhm,
or you could get them to sign a damage waiver, whether that's actually going to hold up in court or whatever. But
mhm,
you can actually explain to them on the scene, say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm
mhm,
going to mitigate as much risk as I can by
mhm.
doing it this way. So they understand what you're doing, not
Yep.
just, oh, that dumb tow truck driver broke my car trying to get it out of the ditch.
100%. They get to watch the recovery too, and have an
Mhm.
understanding on what it is that's going into it, not just like I said, that dumb tow truck driver broke my car pulling it out of the ditch. 100%. That is a
Yep.
true thing that'll happen in the towing industry, right? We've
Mhm.
ran into those customers time and time again.
Yeah, and
So,
when you have those customers, pictures can go a
mhm,
long way.
mhm,
But this is the question from the interwebs for this show or this episode. And this wonderful picture a question came to us from Tow Talk once again over on the Facebook from Ahmed. How long is it to recommended to save vehicle/motorcycle pictures after towing? And that's a good question. Like I know when I take pictures of a vehicle that I am recovering, if it's on my cell phone, I've got pictures from like 4, 5 years ago still on my cell phone, just
but
because I
that's
don't
he's not
delete
asking
them.
on your cell phone. This is more like from a company perspective. I don't
Hmm.
believe this is as a driver. How long should you keep photos? Do you go through and delete them? No. So you got them forever, right? You have them for
Yeah.
years and years and years and years. But no, as a company, like how long should you save, pictures?
Hmm.
Right. One of the comments, I'd say 30 days just to be safe. I don't think that's long enough. The
No.
other one is depending on the towing software you have, you can upload the pictures to it. And when you can upload the pics to it on pickup and when the owner gets it back. Yeah, 100%. So you can upload
Hmm.
photos, right? We recently, because of those TSIA changes we talked to justify a recovery portion, a recovery type of service, you need photos showing that.
Hmm.
So we upload them to the calls, and those can
Yeah.
stay up there for multiple years. It helps for multiple different reasons, right? Pictures, more than just the time on how long you keep them, our impound runs
Hmm.
off those pictures. When we go back and are trying to determine if that vehicle is worthy of scrap, sale, auction,
Hmm.
repair, and sold in house, whatever we want to do, those pictures go a long way to help that. They've got serial numbers, they've got everything to verify, like, but
I
if
did
you're,
this. Go ahead.
if you're looking at it from a liability side of things, which I think was the intent behind the question, was a liability thing. I mean, I feel like at least 90 days would be a minimum.
Yeah.
Or
30
days after a vehicle's been picked up.
Yeah. I did a call. Now, this is once again a year and a half ago now, before all these new regulations came in, and taking pictures of every call wasn't really the norm, even though it should have probably been. As for a Ram 1500, it was being towed 100 kilometers into the city. And I got there, met the guy, got the keys, towed the vehicle. Everything was fine and dandy. Dropped the truck off, threw the keys in the drop box.
Yep.
It was either 4 to 6 months later, I get a call while I'm just sitting in the tow truck, not doing anything because it's a slow day, from my manager saying, "Hey, do you remember this call? Do you remember towing this truck?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, it was like 4 to 6 months ago." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Do you happen to have any pictures of it?" I was like, "Why?" It's like, "Well, it was down there for a new motor, and when the customer got his truck back, apparently there's a massive hole in the side of the box, and the box is crinkled up." And he called the roadside, and he told the roadside that he doesn't think that we did it, but he's just calling to see if we have any pictures confirming or denying it. I was like, "Oh, okay." So
He's
I
low
did
key
the
saying,
quick check, but
yeah, he's low key saying you did it without saying
he's
you
low
did it.
key saying if exactly. And I looked through my phone. I couldn't find any pictures because why am I going to take pictures of something that's not damaged already?
Right.
That was the change of heart right there, from 6 months ago. And then I decided, you know what? I went on to said roadside's terms and service page, found down where it says the members have 48 or 72 hours to process a damage claim to the roadside. I took a screenshot of that and send it back to the manager saying, "Send this to the rep,"
Is that
because they only
true?
have 72 hours. It is true for my roadside provider. Um, the big 3-letter roadside, they have up to 72 hours to report damages, and no one can have touched the vehicle prior to that. So if a mechanic has already started to fix it, it doesn't work. There's grounds to terminate the claim. It doesn't mean they won't process the claim, but the roadside has every right to deny your claim. Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
very
if you've never read the actual terms and service,
yeah.
you should.
Yeah,
There's some good
you
things there.
must contact blank directly within 48 hours to report any damage. Blank and its contractors reserve the right to inspect and assess any damage claims. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a good tidbit of information right there.
Services
So
to
moral
lower
of the
or
story,
all. Go ahead.
Moral of the story, we told the claims rep to go kick rocks and not to come with us with stupid bullshit from 6 months ago.
Well, okay. And that's an important one. There's got to be a statute of limitation when it comes to damage. And like I said, this case 4 to 6 months previous, right? I had a scenario just recently, right? It's actually still ongoing. I got to talk to the driver on Monday. This came in on Friday, right? Time of recording is Sunday right now. And gentleman contacted us with his Mercedes that was impounded and claimed that there was a brake wire, an ABS wire or something that was broken. The garage states that it looks like it might have been hooked by something, right? So obviously vehicle was just impounded. It's it's a possibility of a tow truck, right? It's in the realm of possibilities. I'm a big believer. If I think that I did it, I'll look into it. And if we did it, we're going to repair it.
Yep.
Here's my problem with it. The vehicle left our compound, let's say January 1st. It wasn't then, but let's just use that as a date term. We are now at the time of this claim, like January 28th. The vehicle was brought into the service department on like January 18th. So 18 days after the time of service, with this brake light on, or this ABS light on that, to my understanding, was not on prior.
Yep.
There was no mention made to us of the time of pickup that my ABS light was on, nor if the customer would have left and he lived about an hour away and drove home and called me and said, hey, my ABS light was on my car. I thought it might go off on the original, but it wasn't on before. I would have said, well, get it checked out, get back to me, and we'll see what's going on. Instead, you wait 18 days to bring it to a garage, never again mentioning anything to the towing company. Then, based on their diagnostic that it looks like it might have been hooked on something, which could have been a brand, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to take away my responsibility in this if my driver did do this. However, you're leaving a lot of what ifs on the table. To, you know what I mean? To have me accept responsibility for it. Right? Like, if I go to an impound yard, if I were to, for whatever reason, get one of my vehicles impounded, and I go to the yard and I go to roll out of the yard and the engine light's on, I might mention it. I don't think the towing company did anything to cause an engine light, but I might be like, hey, my engine light wasn't on when it came on. It came on now. Maybe it's from it sitting. At least have it noted. You know, or hey, my ABS light wasn't on before and it's on now. Maybe it's a bit of buildup on the brakes from sitting. Okay. You know, 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks later, get it into a mechanic and then go,
lights can come on, and especially like the company I'm with, we have all indoor storage. So sometimes vehicles sit there for 30 days. It's up on a top hoist. The battery goes dead. So you boost it. And sometimes some of the idiot lights come on. And 9 times out of 10, I just tell them, like, hey, I had to boost your car to get it started. These are the lights that are on your dash. I highly doubt they're on when they came in. If you drive it 20, 30 minutes, they normally go out. Even some pickup trucks, if you leave the front tires or any wheels on the ground, sometimes it can trick a StabiliTrak check engine light or an ABS ABS light to come on. And if you let the vehicle drive for 20 kilometers, those lights go out, right?
But I guess my question becomes, what is the statute of limitation on a damage claim? Like I said, you're 4 to 6 months. Even if you didn't have photos, I would not be accepting responsibility for that, right? Like, whether I had photos or not on that, I'm not accepting responsibility.
It sat in a yard downtown Toronto for 6 months. Highly unlikely.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially a crinkled box, unless the truck physically came off my tow truck while up in the air. I can't crinkle your box up like that. I'm sorry.
Or somebody backed into it. Right? Backed in it with a wheel lift up in the air, something like that. Like, there's possibilities that could do it. But I mean, there's got to be accountability on the customer side. Like I said, this one here, 18 days later, you bring it to the shop. No mention of it. No mention to the towing company at all. Just all of a sudden calls me up. I got a $600 bill. I want you to fix it. I think you did it. Okay, well, why do you think I did it? Well, the garage says you did it. First of all, no. The garage said it looks like the wire got hooked on something. And second of all, if you go to a garage and it says it looks like it got hooked on something, and you go to the guy, I had it towed because I was stupid and did 150 in a 100 zone. Do you think the tow truck could have done it? What do you think the mechanic's going to say? Yeah, it's very possible. 100%.
Yeah, everyone throws us under the bus.
100. Yeah, there's no defend on that.
What else new?
But again, I don't want to use that as an excuse to try and get out of a damage claim. If I did the damage, if we did it, we'll pay for it. But at what point do you draw the line? Because as we know, there's a lot of customers that are out there to get you. And as much as we take photos, right, coming back full circle around on it, photos won't save you from an ABS wire.
No.
Right? You're not going to see that in a photo. Unless that guy is literally underneath of every car taking a photo of exactly what he's hooking onto. So, like, I'm going to request photos to see where the ABS wire is ran on this. And see if it is possible that we even touched it. Right.
But it's already fixed now. So your evidence of something being broken is now gone. Because if it was, let's say, a J hook on a lower control arm with the wire pinched, if you could see the wire being pinched there, sure, Okay, I can see that. Ask your
Yep.
operator, how did you hook up this car?
Yep.
Right? Did you use a J hook? No, you used the eyelet on the bumper. Okay, well then it wasn't us.
Yeah, I know
Right?
I definitely know he didn't use the eyelet on the bumper.
Okay. But
That
it's
part I
that
know for sure.
process of elimination that you got to go through. And
Yep.
unfortunately, your evidence of this problem is gone. It's taken away from you. You got nothing to actually look into other than a word of a mechanic that you've never dealt with and someone who's made poor life decisions because he was your customer being impounded. Like
Yep.
it's a
Yeah.
very fine line to walk there. I think like my first ever damage claim, it was at the company we worked at together, and it was a motorcycle. At that company, we had a motorcycle trailer, and a lot of times we get the owner of the bike in the trailer with us. A, because it's not on a flatbed, it's on a wood surface. The chances of slip and fall while they're in our equipment is very low compared to like on a deck.
Of course.
Plus, it's their bike, and they
Yeah.
know best, right?
Yeah, a lot of times they do, absolutely.
A lot of people who ride motorcycle want to be involved in the process of moving their bikes.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure everyone can admit to that. So anyways, it was a smaller bike. It was picked up. It was being stored for a couple years. We rolled it into the trailer. Customers right there, strapped it all down, front, back, closed up the trailer door, took it the 80 kilometers it went. We brought the bike off. I stood there and I talked to the customer for probably 30 minutes longer than what I should have. Because gift of gab, I guess.
Yep.
I closed the trailer up and started heading back. And before I even made it back to the shop, he called the office and said, "Hey, the turn signal on the front of my bike has broken off. It just broke."
Mhm.
And we both were standing next to the bike after we brought it off the trailer.
Yep.
We were talking there for at least 30 minutes. No, neither me or the owner of said bike noticed it while I
Okay.
was there. It had been sitting for a while. I don't know how the plastic on it was or whatever. I told the owners how I had it strapped with underneath the fairing to the top of the forks. Um, and they said, "I don't think that you did it, but we're still going to pay the $60 for the part just to keep the guy happy."
And
Right?
sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right? Like
100%.
I didn't take pictures.
Mhm.
If I took pictures of the load and offload, it would have covered my ass.
Mhm.
Right? But with the owner of said bike right there beside me,
Mhm.
seeing the whole process from
You,
start to
you didn't
finish,
feel the need to, which I understand.
didn't feel the need to.
Yep.
Now, nowadays, if I was to do that, 100%, I'm taking pictures of at least all four corners, regardless if there's damage or not.
You
Just
have to.
because the changing of times.
Well, that and it's so easy to do
Mhm.
it. Like it's
Mhm.
not difficult at all to do it,
No,
right? Like it's
put your phone in your pocket when you get out of the truck and take 4 pictures. Worst case scenario, what do you got to do? Email it to your dispatcher if you
well, you
don't
don't
have
even
a
well,
fancy
like I
tow
said,
software.
yeah, if you have like tow software is the perfect solution.
Mhm.
I'm actually trying to currently look if I can for an example photos. I got to see what my guys did today to see if
Mhm.
I can find some.
Yep.
But yeah, four corners all around,
Mhm.
right? Very easy to point out and say, "Hey, look, there was the damage before." Four clear
Yeah,
pictures.
also for the impound things, one of the things that I always did before we were even told to take pictures of all 4 corners of impounds coming in and out was I took a picture of the dash with the key in the on position
Mhm.
or running. A lot of times it was running because we had to drive the car in for how much fuel it's got in it because that's a big thing. People say, "Oh, you're driving my car around," so you can
Yeah,
prove how much fuel was in it, and the odometer reading because once again they think that you drive their car around. And with that photo of the dash, you can see what lights may or may not be on.
yeah. Depending on the scenario and how you
Yeah.
actually, if you've got the key, it running, or if you just have the key
Hmm.
on, where every light is going to be on like a Christmas tree
Yeah.
already.
Hmm.
It's a little tougher.
Hmm.
Right. The other thing, like we get our drivers like talking about photos, is they take photos. I'm looking at a couple now. So four corners all around. Oh, this one looks
Hmm.
like it was interesting because the charger was stuck in on the Tesla, which means it won't let you go anywhere. But they also take photos of the credit card receipts, like the slips, not the actual credit card numbers, but the slips after they process it. That way, it's not I forgot to hand it into the office and they need a copy of it. It's right there on the call. When the accounting goes to clear the call through with the payment, bam, look, there's your authorization number. There's if they left a tip. There's everything all in one shot. So yes, photos. Like I said, you got a camera in your pocket. This isn't the old days where you're gonna drop the film off to get developed. You've literally got it sitting in your pocket. Take the photos. Whether you do them for your own, right? Cover your ass. Even if your company doesn't require photos as an operator, trust me, there is going to be a time that is going to come when you are going to wish that you took photos of something, because whether it be a customer damage claim, whether it just be something cool, you're going to want that photo of it. So take photos of everything, right? It's insurance will appreciate it. I mean, they won't appreciate it because then they actually got to pay you for your services because you can prove that you did them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be used to cover your ass. It can be used to justify your billing purposes. It can be used for training purposes. It can be used for so many different things. Take photos. If you're not taking photos, you're doing it wrong. I don't care. I'll fight you on that one to the death.
The industry as a whole is out to get you as a company and as a driver. The
100%.
least that you can do is to cover your ass. And to start with that is with pictures.
Yep. Pictures will go an absolute long way. So, and then video is even better. What you hope is that you never want to get caught on video, doing like this poor fellow was, going through the roads of some other city. We don't know what it is, but, I'd like to point out this is looks like what your typical like Freightliner day cab M2.
That looks like an old International, actually.
You know what? I think you're right on an old International hauling some sort of box truck that is
looks like a cab over Hino box truck. Yep.
Yeah, like a little 5-ton cab over or something that is absolutely at its limit. And this thing just goes bouncing down the road.
Now, to the driver's credit, the truck does seem to be handling the weight. And if you think about it, if it's an empty box truck, there isn't normally that much weight there. But since it's so tall and it's acting as a sail, it's just leaning.
I don't know if
back and
that's so
forth.
much of a sail, man. I would say that old International's probably got a tired suspension. I would say that thing, depending on what the rears he has on it, is definitely overloaded. I'm surprised he's not over height. Like, it looks like it would be close on the height just by a quick look at it. And oh yeah, that thing is just wobbly, and I mean, good on the driver. Look at the squat on it. You can't tell me that is just, it's because it's high center of gravity. No, that thing is overloaded to the tits. The overhang is insane, right?
Yeah,
Like, just
it
looking
does
at
have
it,
a lot of overhang.
he's got a lot of overhang. His back end is squatting. His front end looks like it's trying to, he's not going to wear front tires out very fast with that load. And the caption on it, when they say they have the best prices in town. Yep. That's you know what? A lot of times that's what it is. It's guys that are willing to, beat up on some equipment a little bit to try and guarantee some work instead of using the right tool for the job. So as much as you always want photos of everything you do, you definitely, if you see somebody following you down the road with a camera, remember, they're probably not trying to cover your ass. So a reminder to everyone listening to and watching the show, head over to towinglife.ca. Co-host contest is on, merch store is up there, or there's a contact us tab. You can find us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast, or email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com. Don't forget, keep sending those videos and photos, and all those good questions. We do appreciate it. And again, if you're over on the YouTube
down
side,
below.
Don't forget to subscribe before this video ends. Make sure you hit that subscribe, that like, and drop a comment down below. It is a free way to help and support the show. We appreciate you guys every episode. Coming and going. We have much more to come. Many that have come before. So be sure, if you're new to the show, check out the old episodes. Head over to towinglife.ca. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Toodles. You You got a little lost on that tangent,
I
didn't
100%
you,
got
buddy?
lost on that and found my way back home. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. It's coming out on Tuesday, but have a good weekend after that. Or maybe you're late to listening and you just like to listen on Fridays. You have yourself a great weekend.